up, guys? It's Bobby again with Growth and today we got a pretty cool guest. I'm excited to speak with him. It's Ellis Hammond, the managing principal at Symphony Capital Group. Appreciate you being here with us, man.
Yeah, what's up, man? Great to be here, Bobby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I kind of love your background. You pivoted from a pastor into real estate. Like that's a cool story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your past.
Yeah, not your typical. I feel like, man, I'm like the ultimate testimony of like, if I can do it, dude. Like, whoever's listening to this show, regardless of where you're at, it's possible. That's why I love real estate. In that it's kind of I always say this, man. It's like the last frontier for those who didn't go to Ivy school. Don't come from a wealthy background, man. If you're willing to be if you can get resourceful and you're hungry and scrappy, like this is the industry for you, man, no doubt about it. So anyways, I love that. Yeah, I mean, long story short, I never thought I would do anything but full-time vocational ministry. Went into pastoral ministry because my faith is and was a massive part of my life. I loved helping young college students kind of answer the bigger questions about life and really give them a bigger meaning in life. But man, about 4 years in, we were kind of building a ministry, and I don't know, we just kind of ran out of money. I had a young guy on my team come to me and said, and this was truly life-changing. 4 years in, I remember him coming up to me and saying, "Ellis, I do not have enough money to buy groceries this month." And man, that just like that radically shifted my view on money. It radically shifted my mission, because at that point in my life, I was fine to not make money. In fact, I probably thought it was the more godly thing to do to not make money. And it was like a revelation of, regardless of if I decide to stay in ministry or not, I am not fulfilling my purpose. I'm only really using half of my talents if I don't go figure out this money game. And so that was just the turning point for me, and real estate became that vehicle because it was something that I could easily understand. And it was where I just saw guys that like me who were getting it done without, honestly, a lot of what I felt like you needed requirement wise to get into other industries. And so I'm like, well, this looks like a good challenge. So, yeah, man, we started right here in San Diego, our backyard, with a duplex, and now, of course, we're syndicating apartments.
Awesome. Well, nice, man. Well, I'm excited to chat with you. Over the last probably 6 months, we've been doing some webinars. Haven't had really anyone want to talk too much about like the future, the role blockchain can play on real estate, and I'd love to just dive into that and hear where your head's been just in regards to that topic. I know it's a hot topic right now, so.
In terms of, ask me that one more time. In terms of like what the blockchain will do for real estate.
Yeah, what role you believe it'll play, and like how you think that shift's going to happen.
Oh, I think it's going to be massive. I mean, it's already happening. I mean, we don't have to. I mean, it's so interesting. Like, there's kind of two pockets of real estate investors right now. There's the guys that are like, oh, I don't know how this whole crypto thing is gonna work out, and I don't know if it'll impact real estate. And there's the other pocket of like, people are already using the technology to do deals. Like, it's not like we have to wait and see if the blockchain or crypto is going to impact the industry. Dude, there is a website right now. There's a company, realty. Gosh, I forgot. Realty, like realty.co, where you can go, and they fractionalize homes in Chicago, where you can literally go for a couple $100 and be a part of this investment. And so and then, my buddy Michael Flight is a great example, where he has the first tokenized triple net lease fund on the market. And then you look at the Aspen coin, where they put shares of this, this big hotel up in Colorado on the blockchain. You look at, there's this really cool company I'm following right now, Links DAO, which is the first ever DAO, which is a DAO,
decentralized autonomous organization.
Exactly. Thank you. Decentralized autonomized organization, where they sold NFTs to raise money to create like a golf community, so they can go purchase a golf course, and the people who own the NFTs are the members of the course. And if you don't think it's a big deal or catching the mainstream media, Steph Curry just purchased membership into it. And so I mean, it is. I love. It's exciting, man, because being a young guy, being on Twitter, it's cool to like. It's cool to be in something. It's cool to be part of a current, right? Where I feel like so many times we're looking back at stuff and say, "Oh man, wouldn't it have been cool to be a part of that era?" I mean, even look at 2012 to 2020. I mean, I feel like I missed out on that run, like
Yeah.
because I was young. I didn't know what I was. I was in college. I was more interested in girls than I was real estate. And so this feels like it's fun for me, man, because I'm not missing out on this. I'm in the trend. I'm in the current. I'm gonna be a part of this era that's gonna completely transform our industry and multiple industries like it has never done before. And so I don't know if you want some predictions, but dude, I think if you're in
Yeah.
this industry and you're gonna plan to be in this industry for at least a decade, you're a fool for not beginning to at least research this, because it's going to massively impact how you enter and how you exit this space in the next decade.
Very cool. Yeah, I got into personally like NFTs and a lot of that stuff in about February of 2020, had a ton of fun with it. And then it just got way too popular where everything like 100x'd and I was just like, I don't want to keep up with this anymore. And I just barely dabble in it now. I'm mainly like focused on Bitcoin and what it does. That's what I do full time, is working in Bitcoin. But I agree. I think it's interesting, like the laws right now, they're not really tailored for the technology that's out there. Like they're 100 years behind almost. So there's going to be ways the technology can be used. And I'm excited to see what Gary Gensler says about um, just crypto as a whole, like what's a security, what's not. And I think the regulatory clarity is going to be great in general. That way the innovation can really start taking off and the marketplace just
Yeah,
do
it's
what it needs
interesting,
to
man.
do.
I mean, I think that's true, but at the same time, I'm like, you got guys making regulations for stuff that they don't understand either, and so I think that will continue to evolve as well. I just don't think one regulation or one passing of or a batch of things right now is gonna. I mean, I do think you're right. Like it will it could accelerate in a lot of things, but I mean, I just think like we're still like we're still learning a lot of these things. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole Dow thing, I mean, that's brand, so it's going to take some time, I think, for us even as an economy to figure out how we use these and what regulations need to come about. And so I mean, look at
Yeah.
Bitcoin's been around for a long time already. I say a long time, I mean 10 years, right? But and we're still trying to kind of figure out, is it an asset, is it a currency, like it's so I just think it takes some time for those things to get massaged in, but it doesn't mean it takes time to really begin to utilize them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Early majority is where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Are you guys going to be doing anything at Symphony Capital Group, like trying to get involved in just the role blockchain can play in real estate?
Yeah, man. Well, I think so I'm launching a show. It's already launched, actually. It should be launched when this comes out, called "The Future of Real Estate," and it's part of it is like we want to learn. Like I really want to learn what's going on, who's doing what, how we can be a part of this. I think two things for sure, and I think we're doing, and I think most people that are listening, if you're putting deals together and you're bringing investors, highly recommend doing at least one of these. One is putting language into your PPM that says, hey, we can at some point in the future tokenize real estate. Like we can tokenize the shares of this asset. And the reason I think that's significant or that's important is because, like I said, I mean, I truly think, man, the next 2 to 3 years, this is going to be it's going to be a lot easier. I must say it's already happening. So we don't have to say like, will it happen? It's already happening, but it will become more easy to tokenize your shares of deals and make real estate very liquid, because you can then you can sell those shares on the secondary market, right, on a blockchain. And so I think one, you want to put that language into your PPM because it's for sure going to happen in 2 to 3 years very easily. I think if you're still holding on to that real estate in 10 years, it's going to be almost necessary, right? Because I mean, 10 years from now, man, when it's the standard, your investors of that deal are going to say, man, why didn't what about putting this on the blockchain? I mean, how come I can't sell my shares or tokenize my shares to sell to others. And you'll be able to say, hey, actually we can, because I put that into my PPM, or we put that into our PPM 10 years ago. And so for sure, that's something we're already working on now with our attorney, is to put that language into our PPM so that we'll have the capability of doing that. Secondly, yes, I mean, we're interviewing lots of blockchain leaders, companies who, attorneys. We're part of conferences. The Blockchain Real Estate Summit is one of those conferences that people should look into, so that we can be a leader in this space, or at least, man, a leader in terms of kind of helping bridge this blockchain crypto world and this real estate world together, and potentially being part of some type of blockchain company where we can help other sponsors and real estate groups do that. So yeah, it's something we're in conversation a lot about. And I think the more we understand it, I'll be honest with you, man. Out of all of our partners, I'm like so far behind this, and like was so skeptical of it. But once I begin to understand it, I think that's the curve we have to that's the hill that we have to overcome in this industry. Is, I think once people see the power of it and there's not kind of this skepticism. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, man, but when I got into real estate, or even when I just started learning about real estate, which was what, 5 years ago, Bitcoin was like the red-headed stepchild. It was, don't invest in that. Like, that is the worst investment. That will never become anything. Like, that's totally skeptical. And now look at Bitcoin. Like, I mean, it's up there with gold in terms of an asset, and how it's valued. And so I think there's an adoption that has to take place. And I think, I mean, it's only taken a few years for that to happen in Bitcoin. And I think the same thing will take place in terms of tokenization and the blockchain and crypto here in real estate too. So, yeah, man, those are two ways.
Cool. And I have a question too, because I try to study a lot of the engineers and cryptographers who've been in the industry for like 30 years, who've been building this. And a lot of the OGs will say like putting real estate or like doing things on the blockchain doesn't make sense. Like the purpose of a blockchain is for it to be a slow data pace, triple entry book keeping, so you can actually transfer money. Like that's the purpose of it. But at the same time, like when I talk to Samson from our group, he brings up the point of like, there's all these other different aspects that it could be used, not just trading shares. Because if you think about it, you could just use a database to trade shares. You don't really need a token. Like the token is, you just fractionalize it, right? So like I see what these, cryptographers that built this technology say it's unnecessary, but I also see his point where it's like, say you want to transfer the title, putting that in a smart contract's a very rational thing to do. It saves money, right? Like, where do you see blockchain playing the biggest impact? Is it just going to be like making it where anyone can now trade in the open market, or is it going to be like automating maybe some of these processes and paperwork? And well, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I mean, I think the title thing is a very, it's a common example that I think is very likely to take place. I mean, it's it just makes sense. Like, why would you not have the title on the blockchain, right? Where it can be transferred, you can see, it's open. That's a very slow process. So I think that's huge. But I think, man, like the other thing I've learned from, again, I am not the wise sage in this industry. I'm just
Yeah.
like a sponge, to like
Yeah.
learn what's happening. One of the most interesting conversations I've had recently is how the blockchain will just transform the way that we transact. I mean, you think about money, and what is money? Money is just a tool, man. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, what, 50, 60 years ago, where people, and yes, there was a currency then, but even in, I'm sure, America and different or rural parts, people didn't trade money for stuff, dude. They traded chickens. Like, they traded, they traded different types of assets for different types of assets. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
and then, of course, currency. Now we really just kind of trade dollars for things. But what is dollar? Like, I think the blockchain, man, will allow us to, it's going to transform the way that we transact. I think NFT is a good example of how that's happening, right? Where, there's kind of this open market, and I can trade different things to acquire these NFTs, and these NFTs give me access to memberships or clubs or community or, an experience. And so I think the blockchain, man, just it allows us to, it's a transformative agent to the way that transactions will occur in the future. And so you're right. I think it has a lot more to do than just kind of selling shares, but who knows? I mean, I think that's what's fun. I think we're still kind of figuring out and learning. And,
Yeah.
I mean, just even, I love, Links DAO. I mean, this was a cool concept to bring the golf community together. And these guys can own an NFT, but, the real value of the NFT is now they get membership to a kind of an exclusive community. And that's
What's
pretty powerful. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
what's super interesting to me is like if you go to a golf club, it's like, oh, there's a golf club. Do I really know these people? But you're on Twitter like me, like it's such a deeply rooted community where if you go up to this golf club and everyone there is like a Twitter nerd who collects
Yeah.
NFTs, who's into Bitcoin, you're just
Yeah.
gonna like talk to everyone, you just kind of
100%.
it's like an open door policy. So I do love that component. I think that's pretty cool and pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think, who knows is the answer to my question. I would say this though, and I think people got to remember this. We're real estate. I'm a real estate investor. Here's why. Because he who owns the real estate is still in control. Like I'm not losing focus on the target, which is acquiring assets and managing assets. Like
Yeah.
we still have to manage the assets. So if anyone's, so our goal, man, is yes, we want to learn this blockchain technology and all this stuff. But dude, we're also trying to buy $1 billion of real estate because regardless of what happens, regardless of how the blockchain and crypto, compress cap rates over the next 10 years, you still got to own the real estate, man. And so we I think it's a great idea, the best idea, to get assets, to own assets, and to be prepared the best way possible for the technology that's going to happen and take place over the next 10 years. And so I don't know. We're kind of preparing and then putting ourselves alongside
Yeah.
the right people to be able to be ahead.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that you're putting that verbiage in the PPM just so when it happens, you're able to dive in. And a minute ago, you mentioned cap rates and like maybe what the future of cap rates would be. Like, are you thinking that utilizing the blockchain to make it more liquid and less of an illiquid market, that's going to make a major impact on the cap rates in the future?
I mean, I just don't see how it couldn't. I think it's inevitable. When you think of, real estate historically has been an exclusive asset class. It's interesting that we call real estate an alternative asset when really it was the first asset and it is the largest asset in the country. Yeah. But it is always been an exclusive asset, right? Meaning that you've had to have money. Sometimes you've had to be the right color or race. You've maybe had to live in the right period. Like there's always kind of been barriers, like several barriers of entry to own real estate and invest in real estate. Same is true with syndication, man. Not everyone can invest in our deals. You have to have a minimum of at least $50,000, probably more than that because that's the minimum investment. In some of our deals, you have to be accredited. So you have to have a certain amount of income or net worth to invest in our deals. And so and think about that. I mean, we cater to the retail investors. Think about how much real estate is purchased above us. You know what I'm saying? Like these institutional funds and things like that, where even guys like myself couldn't be a part of, or any of our investors could be a part of. What the blockchain will inherently do is open up this asset class to millions, if not billions of people all over the world. And so if you look historically, and I just was listening to a great interview with Dr. Peter Lindemann. He's a economist, writes a great quarterly report, and he was doing an interview with Walker and Dunlap, and he said historically, regardless of kind of interest rates or whatnot, cap rates have always moved based on the weight of money. And he's like, I don't see that changing. Like the reason cap rates are so low today is because people are chasing yield, and there's a lot of money in the market right now who want yield. And where do they go find yield? Well, they're not finding in the treasury bonds. They're not finding it in their banks. Where do they got to go? They go to real estate, in particular U.S. real estate. So, yeah, man, I mean, you think about the weight of money that is going to come into this industry in the next 10 years because of the blockchain technology is going to be massive, massive, massive. How can that not? I don't proclaim to be an economist. I just am like, I feel like it's just kind of intuitive. So yeah, man, I'm pretty bullish. Again, I think that's why we want to own more real estate, because when you look at the current weight of money right now, and it's already chasing real estate, from all over the country. I mean, most cap rates, dude, or excuse me, most yield in most countries, including most countries' bonds, are in the negatives. I mean, that's why they're coming here to invest in our real estate.
Yeah.
I don't think that's changing. Then you got more money supply coming, because of the blockchain. So yeah, I mean, I just haven't heard an argument for the opposite yet. I just think it's inevitable. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing in particular, like I've noticed is through the pandemic, like a lot of apps that allow fractionalizing literally anything have popped up. Like there's one called Rally I've used where I bought a fraction of a Porsche, I bought a fraction of a Birkin bag. You can buy a fraction of a Charizard first edition, And what I think happens is what maybe the terms like it democratizes investing. So now anyone can take part. So what actually happens is assets actually get bid up because there's more people in the marketplace. That's my thesis, at least. So I think real estate is just going to continue to go up in value because there is, like if you look at like the stock to flow ratio, like Plan B talks about with Bitcoin, like what is it? Real estate and gold have some of the lowest stock to flows, and Bitcoin's going to pass it in the next 4 years. So the real estate thing's only going to get bigger and more important. Shortage of homes, shortage of apartments. So I'm all in with you on that. I agree. And as far as cap rates, like you're right, like we're printing a ton of money, bonds are yielding nothing. The Bitcoin bond in El Salvador and MicroStrategy's bond that they issued, convertible debt to buy Bitcoin, those are the best performing bonds of the year. So there's going to be more of that, I know for sure, leveraging, volcanic energy to mine Bitcoin and then issuing a bond. Like other countries are going to do that. And I think that's really going to kick off just some crazy stuff. Like I'm just excited for it. But yeah, I think owning property, owning assets is going to be the smart thing to do, especially digital property, as Michael Saylor likes to say.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, man, for people who got money sitting in the bank right now. I mean, I love how Dr. Lindemann says this. He's like, are we going to knock it out the park in real estate over the next 10 years? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think so, but I could be wrong. But do we have a chance? Like, are we going to lose? No way. Do we knock it out of the park? I don't know. Do we have a chance? 100%. Well, how many other asset classes can you say that about? Like, you don't have a chance sitting in the bank.
Oh, yeah.
You have no chance. Zero. You're actually, you have a negative chance, because if inflation is, let's just say standard 2%, this year it was 7%, you have no chance. Okay. You're literally losing money. If you put it in treasury, or put it in a CD, you still have negative chance because you're not even outpacing inflation. So real estate at least gives us a shot, man. And I think that's in a very predictable shot. Like we know we're not going to lose. Who knows if we really knock it out, like knock it out of the park, but it gives us a shot. And I think that's really important. It's important for me. It's important for the wealth and that I want to create and what we want to do, and for my family. And I think for a lot of other families too, and at least for all of our investors, our 57 current active investors. So it gives us a shot, man, at something real, at something tangible, at a real way to build wealth over the next decade.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in a little bit into like what assets to hold and what not to hold. What's your perspective?
It's a good question. I would say our thesis is kind of twofold. We still like the value add play. I would think in good, in solid markets, there's still just a ton of growth, in terms of migration and job growth in a lot of different markets. And I think before COVID, you might have been more weary of, when's this gonna bust? Like, when's this rally gonna end? But I mean, think about what COVID's done. Like, it's literally shifted cities, and it's shifted. Think about the mass migration we've had in our country in terms of people leaving coastal cities in the north and coming to the south, the Sun Belt states. And so it's given us kind of a reset um and really a shot in the arm in a massive way to some of these, secondary markets where you might still be able to find some value add type real estate deals where we can go in and force appreciation by increasing rents. And so we definitely like that play, and we've bought a couple deals that way this year, in the Midwest, in Texas, and in San Diego, for example. And so, as long as we're in good markets where there's very strong, I guess, numbers and data to support a growing economy, we're going to do those deals and feel really good about doing those deals. But like I said, man, we also have a long-term thesis in that I just think it's a good idea to own great real estate. And so we like Class A as well. So we bought our first Class A deal this year, 351 unit deal in Houston, Texas. One of the highest median income submarkets of the Houston MSA. And there's nothing to really do there. There's some value in the lease ups, and we bought it directly from a developer. And so there's some value in the way that we can kind of burn off loss to lease and increase rents. But honestly, man, I think we'll win because we're in a great submarket, and rents will go up 10% a year there, at least over the next 2 to 3 years. And not that we've underwritten that, but I truly believe that's what's going to happen in that market. And they've already gone up 17% in the last 12 months, right? So, 10% seems somewhat like kind of inevitable. And so, yeah, that's where we want to be. I just think we want to own real estate. We want to force appreciation where we can in good markets, and we want to hold great assets in better markets, and take advantage of what COVID honestly has provided us. And so excited about the next 5 to 7 years in this industry and owning deals.
Sweet.
Is that helpful?
Nice.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And yeah, I think with the A class specifically, like there's obviously a lot of people are moving maybe to like rural areas because they want to be out of city centers, but at the same time, I think people are going to choose different city centers. Like we're seeing people leave California and New York. They're losing like voting power, like on a what is it, the state level, like what type of role that plays on like the bigger election. But also people are moving to red states. People love Texas. Like all the businesses are moving to Texas. Texas is the place for Bitcoin mining in America. There's a huge Houston Bitcoin meetup there where like all the oil and gas people are meeting. And it's just such a good community. I know a couple of syndicators out there, and
because Bitcoin in a lot of ways, it's an energy. It's like the amount of energy you need to mine Bitcoin. It brings those worlds together. My brother-in-law has been in oil and gas his whole career, and so
nice.
he realizes, he's talked different ways about how to use some of the different energy sources that producing oil puts off to mine Bitcoin, and so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that. I didn't know Houston was the largest place, so that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I love Texas for that in general, and I almost moved to Texas myself just because like they love and value freedom. They have their own energy grid. And they're bringing in tons of talent, man. The Austin and Houston are going to be great, so I'd agree with you there.
Yeah.
Well, tell me some other stuff like you guys are working on. Like, what are some of y'all's goals for 2022?
Yeah, what we've done a really good job of, and I think why folks have continued to want to work with us, is we've just created a great investment experience for our investors. That's definitely a big goal for us. So our goal in 2022 is to finish the year with about $30 million of equity under management, which will allow us to purchase anywhere from $100 to $300 million of real estate. And I don't mean that on like a leverage basis. I just mean that the other thing that we've done a really good job of is creating really good co-GP partnerships with other sponsors and other deal makers. And so we've made it very easy to partner with us. And so we may find ourselves, taking some of our equity and putting that alongside someone else's equity and being able to purchase a better deal for our investors. And so that might allow us to, instead of only purchasing $100 million of real estate this year, allow us to actually have $300 million of transactions. Right. And so that's what I mean, like from 100 to 300 million, depending on who we look to partner with and how much equity we actually bring to the table together will kind of determine the dollar amount of assets we have at the end of the year. So that's our focus. I mean, again, yeah, we're going to play around with, this blockchain stuff and we're going to put that in, but dude, we are so hyper focused on one, being the best, most easy group to invest alongside of. We just I look, man, COVID has destroyed customer service. Like you can't barely go to a bar anymore and order a beer from a bar without like them saying, hey, you have to go through our app to like order a beer. It's like ridiculous how hard it is to get service anywhere. And so, increasing our customer service side of our business, right? In terms of for our investors, I just think that's one of the most overlooked thing, man. Everybody wants to be automated this day. Like, oh, let me have an automated email sequence and let me have an automated, investor portal. I'm like, dude, pick up the freaking phone, man, and call somebody. Like, call your investors. That's how you create loyalty. That's how you create service. So that's a big play for us. And then, making it really easy to partner with us too, so that we can find better deals. Most of our deal flow so far has not come from brokers. It's come from other GP partners. And so if you're out there listening, you want to partner with Symphony, or you got great deals and you want somebody to help raise equity with you, hit us up, because we're looking for great partners that are also easy to work with and want to go acquire great assets. So honestly, man, it's not complicated. We just want to buy deals. We want to own the real estate, like I said, and own great real estate. So as much as those other fun things are happening, our focus is acquisitions.
Awesome. Well, nice. Well, is there before we jump a couple of just final questions, what would you recommend to someone who's maybe making a shift and they get a little inspiration from like your story and getting started in real estate? What would be the one or two things you tell them to just take away from this to like immediately do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've never, I've never learned or I've never accomplished anything by sitting at home. I think COVID has kind of all made us a little lazy, where there's a lot of these Zoom meetups and there's a lot of online education and courses.
Mhm.
Dude, you got to go show up, man. Like, get off your couch, go find the meetups, get to conferences, start shaking hands, and start meeting people. I mean, that has transformed my life and my business, man, or the connections that I've made by just going and meeting people, the mentors, the advisors, the investors, the partners. They've all come, every single one of them has come from in person, not virtual. And so, maybe there's a way to do that virtually now, or more likely to, but I just still think it's hard to replace the in-person stuff. So I would say one is get in person. And then depending on who we're talking to, I mean, again, like, don't miss out on this run. Like, if you're listening to this podcast, it means that you're probably old enough, competent enough, and at least have a little bit of cash to do something. And so don't miss out on this next 6 to 8 year run and spend 2 years of it just trying to learn. Like, get in, either come and invest with guys like GrowthView or guys like Symphony and get into deals, or go do deals of your own, depending on what you want to do. And so I would just say, just don't, get into the game. That first deal or that first investment is the hardest, is the scariest, but you won't regret it. You're definitely going to regret sitting on the sideline over these next 6 to 8 years. So, those would be the two things. I think both of them are just like, take it. I've never, it's just action, man. And I think we're in a great time to take action. I'm really, really looking forward to to what's ahead.
Awesome. Well, that sounds good. Well, where should people reach out to you? What's the best place to like say, hey, if they want to connect?
Yeah, Symphony Capital Group is our website, and we got plenty of ways for you to connect with us there. Symphonycapitalgroup.com is the name of our company, and you can contact us or contact me there. And then, man, Twitter. I'm big on Twitter right now. Ellis_Hammond.
I'm gonna
Ellis
add you.
underscore Hammond. And so if you want to follow along, I feel like I was LinkedIn for a long time, but now it's Twitter, man. And so if you want to really get my current thoughts day to day, I pretty much write multiple times a day now on Twitter, Ellis_Hammond. Follow me there, shoot me a DM, and let's chat and let's go from there, man. So those are the two places.
Love it. All right. We'll put that in the notes on YouTube just below. But man, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your perspective. I can tell you're just relentlessly positive. You got a great outlook, and it sounds like you guys are running a great business over there. So thanks for taking the time.
Bobby, appreciate you, man.